This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview.
Well, today I'm joined by Paul Barrett, Chief Executive of Rome Resources. Paul, it's great to have you back on. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks. Glad to be here.
Excellent. So you've just announced a proposed strategic diversification with Rome moving to acquire exploration licenses in New Brunswick, Canada. I mean, before we get into the projects themselves, can you walk us through the thinking behind this move? I mean, why expand the company's footprint at this stage?
Yes, I think it is a very timely expansion, to be honest, because we are in the DRC. We're still drilling on the Kalayi tin prospect in the DRC, and we are looking to finish that in a couple of weeks' time, and then we'll run the assays, and then we'll do the enhanced, hopefully, resource numbers that will come out towards the end of May. So there is a clear breakpoint in a way there for Kalayi, insofar as we will then start to talk to people who may be willing to do a deal on taking the tin and developing Kalayi. We're looking really forward to doing that in conjunction with potentially releasing some value to do some more work on Montgomery on the copper tin. So there is a pipeline there going forward, really through the rest of this year. But my feeling, and Klaus as well, is that we need to look further into the future in terms of where we might be in a couple of years' time. So to look at some early exploration projects, these will take a long time to come to fruition. In a way, it'll be a slow start because we don't want to detract from the DRC activity. So we will start quite slowly, but it's really a good time to do it, and it's a great play, to be honest.
Understood. Yeah. So you focused on New Brunswick in Canada. Can you tell us why that area in particular stood out to you when you were looking for new opportunities?
Yeah, so the eastern seaboard of Canada has a number of appellation. They're kind of Caledonian through Variscan granites, a lot of Devonian granites, similar in a way to the tin granites in Cornwall, but a different age. And they have a different chemistry, but they're quite rich and varied. There's a number of really quite important tungsten, tin, and even indium and rarer metals deposits that are undeveloped, and it really shows the way to it being quite an interesting play. There's a lot of surface sampling that's been done, but there's not really been systematic exploration, and so that's where we hope we would come in. I mean, New Brunswick itself is really, I mean, I've definitely put a marker down that they're open for business. I mean, they announced their new critical minerals strategic document last week, which says basically, as I say, they're open for business and want to develop things in New Brunswick. That's very positive, because it is in a lot of jurisdictions around the world these days. It can be a bit of a challenge. Above ground issues can be a bit of a challenge, but these are quite refreshingly light in New Brunswick in that respect.
Good. So you've got that geological potential and the supportive jurisdiction. I mean, you've also noted that the licenses you've optioned sit within prospective geological belts with known mineralization nearby, which sounds great. Can you tell us a bit more about that and why it attracted you to the projects in particular?
Yes, so the most of the tin mineralization in that area is associated either with vein mineralization or more commonly with greisens, so altered granites, basically, usually at the top of the granite mass. So these are developed all along the edges and the margins and the tops of the granites. And so, we see in the Three Lakes area, which is there's a number of surface sampling, up to 1.5% tin in surface samples, and so it's clearly a strong tin system. And next door at Mount Pleasant, where there's a lot of tungsten, it's a former BHP, former tungsten mine that's been mothballed for quite a long time. There's some undeveloped tin and indium in there. Indium is quite an odd one because it's not only is it $1 million a ton, it's also that there isn't very much around, and it's becoming important. And so to have that associated with some of the sulfides in this system is really quite important. So there's a lot going for it technically. There's also a lot going for the province as a whole in terms of additional activity. There's a lot of potential, and there's a lot of opportunities. So this is probably, hopefully, just the first.
Yeah. I mean, on that note, assuming the acquisition is complete and everything, what would be the first steps on the ground in Canada?
Well, this summer we'll do some field work, some more rigorous sampling, maybe in terms of soil geochemistry. I mean, it's almost in a way what happens in the DRC. We're next door to a known big high-grade mine, and we do our soil geochemistry, and it highlights where to drill, and we go from there. So it's almost a repetition in a way, just a few years behind.
Got you. Yeah. And we did touch on this, but obviously the company's core focus does remain on the projects in the DRC. So is everything pushing forward as it was before this was announced there?
Yes, that's right. So we're drilling. We've got the 2 rigs still drilling at the moment. We've had a few delays on the XRF readings, so that's why we haven't really said much in the past week or so. But XRF is back up and running, so they're running through the backlog of that. So we're hoping we'll have some things to say about that probably next week, I think. But yeah, it is still going ahead. The samples being shipped out. It does take a long time from samples being shipped to getting the assays, so we know that from experience. So we probably won't see the assays till the end of April, and then the resource towards the end of May. But it's still, that's a pretty short time frame.
Yeah, I agree. And there's these clear next steps, isn't there? So finally, looking across the portfolio as a whole, why do you think this is an interesting time for investors to be watching Rome Resources closely?
Well, I think there's 2 things now. We've got the parallel processes. I mean, the DRC is coming to an interesting point where we had the original resource estimate in November it was. And so we're going to put the new one out for Kalayi in May. That'll probably cement, I would think, any potential transaction on Kalayi, on getting Kalayi developed over the summer. So that's clearly, if we can monetize Kalayi, partly monetize Kalayi, and use some of that cash to do further work on Montagoma, then that'll be very, very positive as well, hopefully without diluting shareholders along the way. And then, as you say, I mean, the Canadian project is a relatively slow start with field work, so that will start to come in. Yeah, probably some news towards the end of the year on that one. I think it's quite possible we might, having talked to prospectors in Canada, that we might pick up 1 or 2 more areas there. As you can see from the RNS, it's pretty cost effective to pick acreage, and it's very prospective as well, right next door to Mount Pleasant. So yeah, I think there's a lot going in this year for people to watch Rome out for.
Yeah. It sounds like there's lots of opportunities in that new Canada ground, and obviously the summer is going to be a pivotal time for the DRC portfolio. That's
right, and having been in Indaba and PDAC recently, the critical minerals space is just so hot. Everybody's, it took years for tin to become recognized as a critical mineral, but it's certainly firmly in that camp now.
Great, it's having its moment in the sun. Well, Paul, thanks very much again for joining us. I look forward to catching up again soon.
Okay, no worries. Thanks a lot.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.